What do Waco, Baldwin, the International Hotel Group, Trinidor and Signia all have in common? Well, nothing much it would seem, but this is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I'm joined by the JSE's Patrycja Kula-Verster to talk about the rush of new listings. It doesn't feel like a rush, but certainly the last couple of weeks have seen a whole bunch of new announcements. What's it, 10 so far this year?
10 listings so far, that's correct.
How many, how does that compare with previous years?
So last year we had 24 companies coming to the market, and this year we have had 10 so
That's actually
far.
quite a disappointing year.
Look, I mean, last year alone we had about 7 companies in December alone listing in that month. So there tends to be a trend for companies to kind of list more towards the end of the year. So with a healthy pipeline, we will see how the listings come in, but we are very pleased to have that healthy pipeline and perhaps have more companies coming to the market, some of which have already advised and mentioned their intentions to list.
Okay, so 24 last year, 10 so far this year. The last quarter tends to be the busiest quarter for listings. Could we beat last year's 24?
Well, we'll have to see.
Okay, why are you so secretive about these things, Patricia? But the fact that all of these companies, Waco, which is the old Jeff Liebsman company, if you look back far enough, is the scaffolding business. Signia is an asset manager. Baldwin develops residential blocks of apartments and things like that. There's absolutely nothing in common. We're not seeing the common trend coming through across the listings. Big variety, is that a good thing?
I think it's always a good thing. I think it's a good thing for our institutional investors. If we break down the listings for this year, we have had 4 foreign listings and 6 of them have been domestic and really across the sectors. 3 of those have been only in the real estate sector. So I think for our institutional investors, variety is good, giving a nice spread across sectors as well as local versus foreign. We had our second fast-track listing coming to the market yesterday, which was a UK-based property fund, a REIT. Also very exciting. So I think with a number of the JSE's latest developments in terms of REITs, fast-track listings, everything that is happening in the market in terms of funding constraints, the re-engineering of financial structures from private equity, I think all of those things drive companies to the market ultimately.
What is a fast-track listing versus a listing?
So a fast-track listing is just a form of a secondary listing. Essentially what that means is that we recognize companies that are listed on either London, New York, Toronto or Australian exchange. If they have a listing for longer than 18 months, they are eligible to do a listing on the JSE without having to issue a pre-listing statement.
Okay, so basically they've done all the hard work, or they've done all the paperwork. They don't need to replicate the process because we've had the close ties with London. The other exchanges have got close ties with London. We trust their admin, and we can do it here as well. So are there no other checks?
So what we do from our issue regulation perspective is that there are a number of checks that they engage with those exchanges to make sure that the company meets our listing requirements. But essentially it's in the form of an announcement. It happens really quickly. It's a lot more cost effective as well, bearing in mind that all secondary listings are already at 50% discounts. So without having to issue a PLS or prospectus, again, you're cutting back a lot of the costs.
So hypothetically, if AB InBev did buy SAB Miller, if the SAB Miller board decided to back away and say, fine, AB InBev, you can have us, and AB InBev followed through on its promise for a secondary listing on the JSE, it could be quite a quick and seamless process because AB InBev, of course, is listed on other exchanges around the world.
It could. It could. Provided again that it's one of those recognized exchanges. So.
New York, I think you recognize New York.
No,
you
we
recognize
do.
New York. Give me a sense, please, of property listings, because last year there was a huge number. Out of the 24 listings last year, probably about a third, I think, were property listings. This year it's about a third again. Are property listings on the JSE so far? What is it with property listings?
So, I think for our investors, they're looking for yield. They're looking for those good sectors. I think property sector brings, particularly for them, good returns and is somewhat a stable sector. So, with 8 property companies listing last year, 3 this year, I think, there is still a lot of opportunities, not only for local property companies, but also for foreign-based property houses. such as the one that listed yesterday.
No,
Capital and Regional.
but that's interesting. I mean, and capital, regional, capital, and counties, it all gets terribly confusing for those of us who aren't particularly close to it. But it is interesting that it gives South African investors an opportunity to buy local shares and get the international exposures to property portfolios around the world.
Particularly why our secondary listings are also so much more attractive is that in 2011 our inward listing regime was expanded, and essentially what National Treasury said is that if you're a foreign domiciled company and you do a listing on the JSE, you are treated as a domestic stock in terms of their prudential
That was
limits.
British American Tobacco, wasn't it? I mean, was that the time of British American Tobacco?
It was British American Tobacco. I think it was around about that time. So, in fact, what has happened is for any secondary listed company, the pool of capital has just gotten so much more wider. Some of these property companies already have South African investors. So, it would perhaps make sense for them to do a JSE listing to widen that pool of investors up a lot more.
And also, I suppose, it prevents capital outflows as well. You can still have the same level of investment, but you just do it in rand. In rands, you get your payments out in rands, you get your dividends out in rands, courtesy of the fact that it's listed on the JSE. How many companies do we have listed on the JSE right now?
So we have got 389 companies listed on the JSE. Yes, with a total market cap of 11.98 trillion rand.
11.98 trillion rand.
So we are
as of this moment. As
of this moment, a couple of minutes ago.
We can call it 12 trillion rand. If SAB Miller did fall off, that would be a trillion rand gone. If AB InBev comes, it'll take it up to 14 or 15 trillion rand. Certainly, a deal of that nature is good for the market, is it not? Expansion of the market. Why does size matter when it comes to market capitalization, overall market capitalization of the JSE?
So I think it matters particularly for a number of the investors. They've obviously got mandates and requirements that say that they need to invest in a certain type of company, given a certain size, liquidity and so forth. For exchanges, that is essentially how we are ranked globally. We are approximately, you can say, 19th to the 20th largest exchange, and that's ranked by market capitalization. So in the exchange world, it's certainly important to know how big your exchange is, and that's how we pretty much quantify that.
So give me a sense of what is coming. I know you can't be specific, but you talk about a healthy pipeline of listings. Is it symptomatic of the times in terms of when companies come to list? You mentioned earlier it's the restructuring of private equity portfolios. Private equity companies invest for fixed periods of time. They see an opportunity to exit, and the listings inevitably follow.
I think all I can say is I can't give you a number. I can't give you any names. We do have a healthy pipeline. Our issuer regulation division is continuously engaging with companies about the process of listing, doing those applications. And at the end of the day, we will see how many companies come to the market. Inevitably, it's really up to the directors, shareholders, and anybody else who's a major influence in that particular company as to whether they come to the market or not. Some, for example, announce that they are going to be listing, but then last minute, as we saw with the Virgin case.
You see, the Virgin Active one was really interesting because that was Brait, the Brait stepping into the breach there and going, hold on a second, we can buy 80% of Virgin Active of the United Kingdom. This thing doesn't need to list by itself, and that was taken away from the market. Waco, I recall sort of seeing the statement there that we'll list if market conditions are suitable. Signia, for example, is coming to market 8-9 times oversubscribed. There is appetite, and there's appetite, as we've seen with Peter Armitage's business and the performance of Coronation, huge appetite for the asset managers.
This is certainly the excitement of the markets. Companies come to the market, they list, they raise capital, and essentially, just like you can't dictate your share price once you are listed, you also can't dictate certain things. It's an open market, and again, from a pipeline perspective, we certainly have a healthy pipeline, and we hope to see those companies coming to the market.
How are you ensuring the quality of listings?
So what we do is that because we have been rated first in terms of our regulation for 5 consecutive years, this year we've been rated second in terms of our regulation globally.
This is the World Economic Forum competitiveness rankings, yeah?
So our regulation is definitely up to standard, not only locally but also globally. So from an investor perspective, I think investors certainly have the credibility that they are investing on a credible and sound exchange, as well as companies. Like I say, our issuer regulation division is certainly hard at work making sure that all those companies comply with our listing requirements. And that is essentially how we ensure quality. Ultimately, you can argue that perhaps if investors do not like the company when they go for the private placement, perhaps they are not able to raise the capital that they wanted to raise, and then perhaps maybe other options come up.
But have we seen that? I don't think we've really seen that. I mean, the company's actually been traditionally quite conservative in their expectations when they first come to market.
Yeah. I suppose you do see it here and there. You know, companies, like I say, intend to list and they don't list, and then things change. This is the beauty of the market.
Is 2016 a busier year than 2015? Give me something.
It certainly has been.
No, 2015 has not been as busy as 2014. Is 2016 going to be back as busy as 2015 or as busy as 2014?
Well, that we will have to see. Unfortunately, I did not bring my crystal ball with me today.
No, but you've talked about this great big pipeline that you've got.
Yeah, look, our pipeline always looks good. So we have got a healthy pipeline. You know, some of the companies that you have mentioned for one, we have been engaging for a number of years with them. So listing is not a definite you're going to be listing on this date. It could change. And that is why we are continuously engaging with companies. Things change, and as things change, we try and keep informed of those and see how we can assist those companies going forward. Ultimately, whether the company lists or not, there's a number of factors. Markets, directors, shareholders, there's a number of factors that influence listings. But we are certainly very pleased to have the companies listed on our exchange thus far.
Is this last quarter of 2015 true to form, in terms of it likely to be busier in the last quarter than it has been in the rest of the year?
It looks like it might be an eventful quarter. But
we need an eventful quarter.
We
need an eventful quarter. We'll leave you in peace now. The JSE's Patrycja Kula-Verster. She's not allowed to give the details of the listings that are coming up, but certainly 2015 has been a bit of a damp squib as far as listings are concerned. 10 so far, 6 of those in recent weeks. Nice variety relative to the huge surge we saw in property listings in 2014. There are a bunch of companies that there's lots of gossip about in the markets. We'll see whether or not those do list in the final quarter of this year, or whether they hold out for more stable markets into 2016. It depends, of course, on your perspective on that. Thank you for watching. There'll be more Moneymakers tomorrow night. Till then, bye-bye for now.